Why don't we go ahead and get started? So, hey, Jason, if you don't mind, you want to just kind of lay the framework a little bit, and then we can go ahead and get started.
So, say that one more time, Doug.
Yeah, if you don't mind, you want to just put together a quick little introduction and just kind of a little bit of framework about what the expectations are, so we're all on the same page.
Yep. Let me first text Jared to make sure he's on.
Okay.
Got the Silver League last night.
Okay.
Dan!
Hey guys, it's going to start obviously with. All right, was that Jared I hear? Jared, you on?
His computer. I mean, I'm showing him on the attendees list, but I have no idea.
He's saying he doesn't hear anything, so I'm just going to tell him to call on his phone.
Yeah.
All right. So to do a brief intro, I was telling these guys yesterday, you know, you and I have been talking over the past 4 to 6 weeks, however long it's been.
Right.
And one of the things that I've kind of learned and gleaned from you is number one is the intentionality of your communication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everything from, you know, choosing the words that you say to framing, you know, kind of where you're going in the conversation to, you know, being able to read objections, being able to handle those objections preemptively. And so these guys are, you know, as you well know, they're on the front lines. They're out there meeting agents, selling our ability to serve them well. And so I really just wanted to kind of get you in the mix to kind of give them, you know, some things that you've learned over the years to create a better outcome.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, good. Good morning, everybody. I hope soon that I'll get a chance to meet every one of you, but for right now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background about who I am and where I come from and why it is that I'm in this position. And I won't bore you with the details, but I became an originator in 1995, shortly after graduating college, and quickly realized that I was not a very good salesperson. I realized that my ability to convince people to want to do business with me based on product, based on rate, based on fees, didn't feel genuine to me. And so I looked elsewhere for ways to create value for people. And here I am, 20 plus. Yes, sir.
We lost you there for a second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I can hear the whole time.
Okay. So let's fast forward about 20 plus years later, and I'm sitting here in a position where I've built a team, owned a company, had 30 plus employees, fired 30 plus employees, closed the business down, and have closed hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of loans over the course of my career, and all of which was created based on relationships, based on being what I call being a giver who has a request. And the simple mindset behind that is that I believe that I had the ability to create such great rapport with people and such great relationships with people that they would be compelled to want to endorse me or advocate me to the people in their lives that they cared about. And the amazing part about it is as I evolved into this position, I learned that the one thing that makes me different than you guys, the one thing that makes me different than Pete, the one thing that makes me different than Jason, everything that I do is narrowed down to one thing that makes me different. It isn't rate, it isn't fee, it isn't cost, it isn't anything. And this holds true to you guys as well. Does anybody besides Jason, does anybody have an idea or at least a guess on what is the one thing that makes each of us different? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
The personality?
Yep. Who's this?
Yeah,
Say that
exactly.
again?
My ability to answer the telephone when it rings.
Yep, your ability to answer the telephone. But is that Chris or Dan?
Chris.
Chris. Okay. Chris, I'm going to take it a step farther with you. So when somebody answers the phone, what is it that makes somebody want to listen to you?
I think it's my bubbling personality that comes over the line.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, your bubbling personality, as you communicate it, that's going to be interpreted by everybody differently. Is that fair?
It's fair.
Okay. So with that being said, let's keep going with that line of questioning. So if it's your bubbling personality, what defines your bubbly personality?
Just acting like I genuinely care about what they have to say, and I want to try and find,
and what do you? Okay. So tell me what you mean by acting like you genuinely care.
Well, just being concerned, asking questions, trying to dig into what they are looking for. Just really trying to find, okay, what are you after? How can I help you?
Right. So acting like a consultant, truly being a consultant, which in my definition of a consultant is somebody who probes, who asks the difficult questions, who genuinely is interested in learning about their client. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay. So, all right. So how is it that if you and I were sitting down in front of the same client at two different times, how would it be that you would differentiate yourself from me? Because I would say a lot of the same things that you just said. I care. I would ask the questions. And I would imagine that there's a few other LOs in your market that are going to do the same thing. So what is it about your line of questioning? What is it about your communication that makes you different than me?
Well, basically what would make me different from you would be the team that's behind me and my belief and my trust in my teammates.
And how do you prove that to somebody that's never met you before?
Well, it's kind of difficult to prove that. I mean, it's just going to have to be me convincing them with some, Vulcan mind meld or either a Jedi mind trick that hopefully have them see my way.
Good. Awesome. So that actually couldn't have come out any better. I feel like I almost scripted that out of your mouth. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's got to be some kind of a Jedi mind trick or a Vulcan mind meld type thing. Well, the truth is that the one thing that makes you and I different, and this is where I guess we'll take the class. The one thing that makes you and I different, Chris, is the words that come out of my mouth. My ability to communicate, my ability to articulate my value and my concern and my genuineness to my clients is the only thing that makes you and I different. My ability to articulate what's in my heart through my brain and out of my mouth is what's made me extremely successful in this industry. It isn't because I'm a great loan officer, and to be honest, guys, I'm a horrible loan officer. I don't know guidelines. I don't know details. I'm horrible in loan management. But I realized that early on in my career and had built a team around me that was better at that, which allowed me to stay more focused on what my talent really was, which was establishing extremely deep, meaningful relationships with my clients to allow them to refer me. And the point of that is it doesn't come from being willy-nilly. It isn't a guess. It isn't by accident. I don't live on this drug called hopium, and a lot of people in our industry do live on it. And the word hope is a drug. When you wake up every day and you hope you get business, when you wake up every day and you go to a meeting and you hope you get a referral, and every day you go and get a meeting and you hope you get a referral, you hope that they like you. Well, the truth is that this industry is so much more around psychology and human relationships than it has anything to do with rates, fees, and costs and your knowledge of loans. And you guys may say that that's wrong, but I'm here to tell you that you guys probably know more about the loan process than I do, and I've been in the business 20 years, and frankly, I think I have a better chance at originating a relationship in your town quicker than you would just because of my skill set around what it is that I say and why it is that I say it. And it isn't meant to be braggadocious. It's meant to say that when you sit down with your clients, when you sit down with your realtors, when you sit down with your referral partners, the one thing that has to be ingrained in each of your brains is people will never, ever, ever remember what you say. People will always remember what? What's the one thing that everybody, what's that?
How you made them feel.
How you made them feel. And the reason that plays into our advantage is that when we learn how to communicate value through feeling, we tend to leave a greater impact on those that are listening. More importantly, people stop hearing you and they really start listening. And there's a difference. There's a difference between somebody that hears you and between somebody who listens. Does everybody agree to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when somebody starts to hear you, when somebody sits down and hears you, you know when that transition takes place, when they really start to listen. You know they're engaged, they're leaning in on their table, their nonverbal communication is considerably different. And we've all been in those meetings, we've all been in those situations, whether it's, you know, socially, personally, or professionally. The truth behind everything that I'm saying is really this. When you learn the art of communicating your value in such a way that it establishes a relationship through emotion, you tend to get away from the commoditization of your business. And Chris, you said something earlier which was really awesome. It's going to be based, you know, how is somebody going to know you're different? And it's going to be because of the team that supports you. The truth of the matter is that I don't agree. I don't think anybody cares about the team. I don't think anybody who meets you for the very first time has any way of knowing whether or not you're selling them or not on this concept. And so one of the greatest strategies that I would like to work on with you guys over the next couple weeks, if I get a chance, is to really start learning the meaning behind when you say something, using it towards evoking an emotion. So there's two parts of our brains that we really focus on, and that's the limbic and the neurocortex. Has anybody ever studied that part of the brain by chance?
Negative.
Okay, so the neurocortex part of our brain is the analytical side. It's the engineer type. It's the facts and figures. It's the charts. It's the graphs. It's the Excel spreadsheet. Have you guys ever hung out with or dealt with or been engaged with an engineer? Have you guys ever spent any time with engineers?
Used to work with them all the time.
Okay, so their personality type is very black and white, very dry, very unemotional, correct?
Yes.
They view the world in very, what's that?
Sorry, I said they're very objective.
Correct. They view the world in very categorically or compartmentalized segments. That's the way that they approach everything. That's just their nature. That's why they're engineers. Then you work with somebody who's in sales. They're much more emotional. They're much more engaging. They're much more free thinking. The neurocortex part of the brain is like the engineer. It's very organized, very detailed, very analytical. The limbic part of the brain is the emotional side. That's the side of our brain that actually creates emotion. That's the side of our brain that actually creates action. Believe it or not, when people go to buy homes, they don't buy a home based on payment. I don't know if you guys have figured that out yet in your careers or not, but most people don't buy a house on a payment. I can't tell you how many times I set a payment up and a budget for a client, and 2, 3, 4 weeks later, they're coming back with a house that was, you know, significantly more money, but they love the house. They love the house because of its location. They love the house because of its school. They love the house because of its size or the layout or the backyard, or they feel that the house is right. Have you guys ever heard of that when somebody says, God, you know what, it just feels right? You know, this is the house. They're standing outside, they're like, God, it feels like the right house. The numbers come in line, but the whole reason that they're moving forward with that house is because they have fallen, quote unquote, in love with it. And if you were to ask somebody how to define love, whether it's with your significant other or with your family or whatever, it's hard to put the definition of what love is for each of us into words. And that's because the limbic part of our brain has nothing to do with the analytics and the articulation of it. The difference is that if we can find a way to take what you feel or how people feel and articulate it in a way that makes them gravitate towards you, you stand a significantly better chance at creating a more meaningful relationship with them and getting them to truly listen to what you're saying, as opposed to having to sell them or to convince them or to persuade them to want to use you. It becomes more of a, listen guys, you're going to want to work with me because you won't find anybody else who's going to make your business feel the way that I do. Now that sounds kind of corny, but the reality is most realtors that you talk to have never studied the art of human interaction. They don't study the art of human relationships. They don't study the art of communication. And by no means am I an expert. By no means am I a professional coach. I'm just trying to give you guys some, some real-world experiences that I've developed over the last 20+ years. And so when the Cataray Mortgage Group evolved, it really hit its stride when I built a mindset around what I called the triangle of trust. And I've talked about this with Jason a few times, but this is an example of what it means to articulate your value. And so let me give you a brief little snippet of what I would say to people within the first 15, probably within the first 7 minutes of meeting them. Because I always believed that in order to get somebody to listen to me, I always had to create an image of what I wanted them to see in me. And let me give you an example. So each of you guys has a perception of what a politician is. You guys all have examples in your mind of relation of what a politician means to you. Same with a police officer, same with a teacher, same with a principal, same with a boss, same with a garbage man. We formulate these opinions or these perceptions of people based on our experiences. Believe it or not, every realtor that you call on has a perception of what a loan officer is. Is that fair?
Yep.
And that perception of a loan officer, in your cases, if you're meeting with a realtor, is probably going to be somewhat negative, otherwise they wouldn't be meeting with you. Is that fair?
They're willing to meet, they're willing to cheat.
They're willing to meet, they're willing to cheat, and that's because the relationship that they're currently in bed with isn't meeting all their needs. That's why they're interested in meeting with you. And so one of the greatest realizations that I had was when I sat down with a realtor for the first time, my number one concern was to put myself into a frame that they could see me the way that I wanted them to see me. Meaning that every time, if you were to take a picture of your family and you were to frame it in 18 different frames, whether it be bamboo, whether it be black, whether it be chrome, steel, wood, it doesn't matter. Every frame that you put around a picture changes the picture, doesn't it? It changes the way it looks, right?
Yes.
That's the image that we have available to us when we sit down with a realtor for the very first time. We have a very short period of time to frame ourselves in the way that we want them to see us. We don't want them to think of us like they think of every other loan officer that has disappointed them. We don't want them to view us like every other loan officer who's never returned their call or dropped the ball with a client or failed on a client or failed on a promise or a commitment. So when we sit down with clients, we have a very short window of time to be able to convince them that we are worth listening to. See, I'm not trying to sell them. I'm not trying to convince them. I'm just simply trying to get them to listen to me. My belief is that I'm not the best loan officer for every realtor. I don't believe that I'm the perfect loan officer for every borrower. I don't believe for a moment that I can solve everybody's problem. But what I do believe through my core is that I am the best person for every realtor and every client to talk to about what their needs are, because I'm the only one who cares about what happens after I'm gone. And here's how I set the stage for that belief system. I don't necessarily want your business. I don't necessarily need your business. I only care about one thing when I'm meeting with a realtor, and that's getting them to see me for what it is that I want them to see. So I would usually sit down with my realtors and I would start the conversation off with a little chit-chat in hopes that I could find some kind of a connection. I needed to build rapport. That's the first step. And that takes practice. You have to talk about your life, you have to be vulnerable, and you have to find things about them that are like with each other. Like, I love cars. I'm a car fanatic. If I find a realtor that's, that's a car fanatic, instant credibility, instant relationship. But what it does is it allows me to ease into the conversation, which is my unique selling proposition, which is, you know what, Mr. Client, I want to be honest with you. Before we get started, I think it's vitally important for you to know who's sitting on this side of the table, because I'm going to try my best to learn everything I can about you. But before I start, I think it's pivotal that you learn enough about me that makes you realize what I'm about. So I've built a business on a simple philosophy, and that is I want nothing more than for you to want to refer me to somebody you care about. I want to be that person that you refer somebody that you care about because of one thing. I promise that no matter what happens, because I would love to earn the business, I just don't necessarily need it. And there's a powerful statement in there about wanting versus needing. We all know those people that are in need of something, and we also know those people that are in wanting of something. Two totally different approaches with their personalities. Is that fair?
Yes.
We've all met a needy salesperson, haven't we?
Yes.
And you can pick up on it pretty quickly, can't you?
I've been one of that.
Yep. So the problem with that is that turns people off. So when I tell them that I want to earn their business, I just don't need it, it's a powerful statement that we'll get into at another time. But I turn it into, when you refer somebody to me, here's my goal. And everything that I do is that client that you refer me, I'm going to ensure, whether they choose to work with me or not, they come back to you and say thank you. See, my ultimate goal as Mr. Realtor is that when you get a client who you refer to me coming back to you and saying thank you, regardless of whether or not I do the loan or not, your reputation with that person is magnified and is amplified. That person's going to look at you and think you are an amazing person, because anytime somebody takes another person's recommendation and it works, they feel compelled to want to go back and say thank you. They feel compelled to want to endorse you to their friends and their family and the people in their life that they care about. See, my business is predicated on one simple philosophy. I want nothing more than the person that you refer to me to come back to you and say thank you. Two things happen there. I've established a great relationship with you by doing that, because now I've done a really good job for somebody, not based on my needs, based on my desires of getting a loan, but based on the desire of getting you that thank you or that accolade and that appreciation for putting them in touch with the right person. The byproduct is that now I've earned the trust and the respect for the client that I'm meeting with. They know that my number one goal isn't to get them a loan. It eventually could be, but they need to see me as being an unbiased consultant who's interested in figuring out what their wants, goals, and needs are. And inherently, by doing that, that pushes them back to the person that introduced us, and it forms a triangle. The realtor and mine's relationship is amplified. The client and the realtor relationship is amplified. And just by doing both of those, my relationship with the client is amplified. And if done correctly, you create what's called a triangle of trust. And that realtor, believe it or not, becomes addicted to that feeling. They become addicted to the feeling of getting a phone call or a handshake or some type of an appreciation statement for introducing me to them. And the power behind that is I've just described to every one of you that I care, that I do it in such a way that isn't like everybody else. I told a story. I found a way to communicate a value that's tangible for people. Let me ask each one of you guys on the phone, how many times have you guys actually endorsed somebody's services within the last year?
Several.
Several
a few
times? How many times has the person who you endorsed ever called you and said thank you?
Yeah, quite often.
Quite often?
Yeah.
Did I hear quite often and never?
I can't remember somebody thanking me for that.
Okay. Let me ask you, the one that said that you get the call, how does it make you feel when that person calls you and says thank you?
Oh, it makes you feel great.
Okay. That's the person who you referred the business to, correct?
Pardon me?
That's the person that actually got, let's say that it was a plumber. You referred a friend of yours to a plumber friend of yours, and the plumber called you up and said, hey, thank you for the referral. That's what you're talking about at this point?
Correct.
Okay. What about?
Yeah, it doesn't happen as often. I mean, it's more on the realtor side. I mean, when we refer clients to realtors, we normally hear back from them. But yeah,
Yep.
I think more than not, if like a plumber or an AC guy, no, I probably don't hear thank you from those people quite as much.
I hear from
What
God.
about from the actual client who's seeking the service?
I get calls from them.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Great when it happens. You know, worthwhile.
Right. Now, isn't that a feeling that you would love to get every single day when you opened up your business?
Or give, yeah.
Isn't it an amazing feeling that people care enough to recognize that you are interested in their wants, goals, and needs, and you put their needs ahead of yours? So much so that they're compelled to want to call you back and say, man, you referred me to that plumber friend of yours. He did a knockdown, drag-out job. I am so appreciative of that. Do you think the relationship between you and that client has just been amplified?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's where the fortune lies. The fortune lies in being able to articulate that value to your realtor clients and doing it on such a consistent basis that your realtors become addicted to that. Because truly, when you get enough phone calls from somebody, like if every one of the clients your realtor refers you calls that realtor back and goes, oh my God, Jared, Chris, Dan, Jason, man, that guy's awesome. I appreciate it. He's honest and blah, blah, blah. It goes on, and the accolades go on and on and on. Pretty soon, do you think your realtor's ever going to cheat on you? Regardless of the mistakes, regardless of the unpredictability of our industry, are you more of a relational-based realtor? Are you in a more symbiotic relationship with your realtor, or are you more of a transactional lender with your realtor at that point?
Doug, a question for you now. When you talk to these people, I mean, are you putting a little, like a bug in there and say, hey, listen, if you really appreciate my services, would you mind, telling your realtor? I mean, you ever say anything of that nature?
What I tell the client, you mean when you're talking to the actual consumer?
Yes. To get that, positive feedback. Do you ever say, hey, listen, I really appreciate working with you. If you appreciate it, I'd love for you to maybe mention to your realtor your experience with us, something of that nature?
Yep, but you sound very, very weak when you say that right now with what you said. So here's what I would tell you that would be, if you're up for a little bit of coaching, I would tell you to do it a little bit differently, and I would tell you to do it sooner. And I'm not going to bore you guys with all the details because there's so many different things that are happening in what I say to people, but I'm going to take this little piece and kind of go into it very quickly with you. So when you meet with somebody for the first time, you have a chance to set an expectation. And you have, as the professional, the right to set your own expectations. I always brought my clients in, and within a very short period of time, made them clearly understand that my business was 100% driven by their ability to advocate me to their friends and their family. I tell my realtors that my business is 100% driven based on my ability to get my realtors to advocate me to their clients and the people in their lives that they care about. When I meet with that client, I'm telling them within the first 10 minutes that everything that I'm going to do is built around getting them to advocate me to their friends and their family and the people that they care about. And in doing so, I'm going to need their help, because as I draw out the triangle of trust on a piece of paper, because this is where I get them to buy into my belief system before I even start talking about mortgages. I want them to agree to working with me before we even start talking about loans and products and rates, because at that point, when you start talking about products, loans, and rates, you're in the neurocortex part of the brain, and they'll never remember it. And you can't fill their brain with all those details and then switch to the emotional side, because at that point, they're only hearing you, they're not listening. I talk about that in the very beginning. So I tell them, I said right out of the gates, as we go through this process, I would love to earn your business. But I'm very selective about the people that I work with, not because I can't help you, but because I need to make sure you're the right fit for my business, meaning I need to make sure that I'm going to be able to deliver what your goals and expectations and needs are, just like you're looking at me, determining whether or not I'm going to be able to deliver your goals, your needs, and your expectations. So we're on this kind of like trying to figure out if we're a good fit or not. In the process of doing that, right now, right?
You're in a
What's
client
that?
relationship?
If I'm in a client relationship. Yep. Yep. Because as soon as I have a chance to, I'm going to tell them that one of the expectations that I have is that as we go through this process, whether we choose to do business with each other or not, Mr. Client, I need you to understand that it's vitally important that you go back to that realtor and you tell them thank you. It's vitally important to me because as my relationship with that realtor grows, I need you to consistently remind your clients how valuable it is for them to go back and say thank you to that agent. And that's you kind of being more in control and not hoping that they do it. And it's okay to ask them to. They always do. They always do when you ask them.
Doug?
Hello, hello.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, just make sure you're still there.
Oh, yeah, still here.
Yeah, we
So,
lost
I guess-
you for a second.
Nope. Just taking a breath and gathering my thoughts up again.
Hey, if you don't mind, dig into that a little bit deeper, because when you were describing that scenario where you're talking to a buyer and saying, "Listen, I'm not sure I'm a fit for you."
Right.
Talk about the psychology that's going on there. 'Cause when you said that,
Yep.
Chris was like, "I wouldn't tell a buyer that because I want their business."
Right. Well, there is a word, there's a phrase called permission to reject. We had just got done talking a little bit about the difference between wanting and needing business. Obviously, it goes without saying that every one of us needs money. We have a financial reality in our life that we have to meet. The difference is that when you communicate a need-based relationship with your clients, they sense it, they feel it. You may not say it, but trust me, they get it. It comes across in how you say things. It comes across in the speed in which you deliver your message. It comes across in your decisions and how you talk to them. The reality is that when you set the stage in the beginning by saying, "Listen, Mr. Client, I just want you to know that I would love to earn your business, but I don't necessarily need it." And that's a powerful statement for you to realize, because I only care about working with people that I can truly help. I don't necessarily need to take your loan on, which means that you don't have to worry about me telling you things and making you believe things that aren't necessarily in your best interest. My business will survive whether you and I do business with each other or not. But at the end of the day, as I told you before, all I care about at this point is getting you to go back to your realtor and say thank you. Because I believe that I'm the best person to figure out your options. I just may not be the best person to do your mortgage. But I think that's what you're looking for, right? You're looking for somebody to provide you with an honest, truthful, unbiased approach to what your goals, wants, and needs are and how you can best accomplish it. Now, in my head, guys, I know that I'm probably the best loan officer to do the mortgage for them. But I want them to see that part of me that genuinely says, I care about you as the person. I don't care about you as the loan. And by telling them that it's okay to not work together, takes their fears down, because most salespeople don't ever give them that chance. Most consumers go into sales situations feeling like they're going to be pressured, that they're going to be guilted, that they're going to be coerced or manipulated into buying something that they may not need. When you issue that question of being able to reject, or that they have the right to reject you, it's okay. And I'm not saying that you tell them that you're not going to work with them. I'm saying in the beginning it's okay to set the stage by saying, as we go through this process, Mr. and Mrs. Client, as we kind of figure out if we're a good fit or not, I want you to know that it's okay if we choose not to work together. Because as much as you're interviewing me for the job of doing the loan for you, I'm also interviewing you to decide if you're the right fit for my team. My team is built very, very specifically around people that want to advocate me to the people in their life that they care about. I can't afford to take on clients that aren't willing to advocate me to their friends and their family, because we dedicate so much time and energy to every one of our clients that I rely on you guys to go out there and advocate me to the people in your life that you care about. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to spend as much time making sure that the team and your loan goes through the loan process as smoothly as possible. Is that fair? Is that something we can agree to?
Say that again.
I will tell. Is that something? And I ask the client at that point. I seek an agreement. I seek a commitment from them. I tell them, is this something that you're comfortable with? I have never in my career ever had a client say, No, that doesn't work for me, ever. Because you've just taken another barrier down between hearing you and listening to you. See, what I just got done telling them is really simple. I want to earn your business. I just don't need it. So I have no incentive on telling you something that I don't believe is true or that isn't in your best interests. Can you guys see that? Can you guys see how the art of what I just said really impacts them?
Yeah, that's good. That's powerful.
But it goes to the point of this, guys. The more time that you spend on developing your skill at communicating your value in a way that people see and feel has less to do with facts, figures, turn times, rates, team members. All that stuff is insignificant.
Now, what about communicating?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What about communicating that way with your realtor, not just the client?
The realtor, it's the same way. I don't tell realtors that they have the right to reject me or that I mean, I say it in a different fashion. I say I'm looking for a partner. I'm looking for somebody who understands the value of what it means to build a relational business with the client. See, my goal, Mr. Realtor, is that every client that you refer me, I get to make an advocate for my business. And how that helps you is that every client that I get to refer me a new friend or every time a client refers me, I'm able to turn around and pass that referral back on to you because it's a new purchase transaction. My business at the end of 2013 was 65% past client and current client referrals. I passed out 25 purchase transactions to my realtor base, and that doesn't even include any of those purchases that had a listing in it. So who do you think is a more valuable loan officer right now to my realtors, me or somebody from Chase?
You are.
And that came from my ability to build relationships not only with the realtor, but also with the client. But the realtor that I'm meeting with, I'm interviewing them because I honestly don't believe that most realtors are worth their weight. I would never bank my financial future on a realtor. Ask yourself that question for a moment. If you had to look at a realtor's W-2, would you bet your financial future on a realtor?
No.
Most of them probably don't even know how to balance a checkbook, let alone run a business. Most of them don't stand a chance. If they walk into your office, Jason and Pete, get them eating out of their hand the moment that they walk in because Jason and Pete are true professionals. They're business owners. Most realtors have a job. They have a job, and that's all they do. And they wake up every morning hoping that they're going to get business. But none of them, most of them, don't know how to orchestrate and create opportunities through relationships because none of them have ever been trained to, and none of them ever actually take the time to learn how to. We can talk about specific conversations with agents and how we can talk about with clients at a later date, but the message that I really wanted to drive home to you guys today is really this. It has less to do with the facts and the figures and the teams and the stuff that, there is no Jedi mind tricks, there's no Vulcan mind melding going on. It really is understanding that in order to get people to listen to you, you have to connect with them emotionally. And by emotion, I don't mean hugging them and sitting next to them and holding hands. What I mean is when you sit down with a realtor, painting a picture for them, like I do with the Triangle of Trust, and engaging with them in a belief system that I care differently than you do. I can teach you how to care differently than you do. I'm not trying to teach them how to run their business. I'm teaching them how to tweak it so that they can see the value of every client and maximizing the potential. Realtors have it on their business card. Every single one of them, if you ask them if they had a choice, where do you think most realtors would love to get their business from? Do you think it's Zillow? Do you think it's Trulia? Do you think it's from marketing? Do you think it's from mailing? Do you think it's from farming? Or would they rather get them from referrals?
Referrals.
Agreed. Now, that's not to say that they would change their marketing program, but if you're farming to a neighborhood and you're spending X amount of money every month, wouldn't it be great that for every farm, for every client that called into your shop, you got 1 out of every 3 of those people that called into your shop referring you another person? Pretty soon the mathematics start shifting you away from having to spend money to organize business to basically hiring enough staff to service the loan business or the realtor business that you got coming in. Everybody in this industry would rather get business from a referral than paying for it. And the best part about it is if you can understand the value of yourself to these realtors and you can articulate it, you can establish yourself as being much more than just a transactional loan officer, which makes you equal to everybody, and you can start differentiating yourself by how you say things and why you say it so that the agents feel what it is that you guys are presenting, because you guys don't have a traditional business model. You guys have something that most realtors love. That concept that you guys have is amazing. The difference is that when you guys are out there selling yourselves, you're selling team, rate, product, program, turn times, and that's fine, but that's the same stuff that every realtor hears, and you're not reframing yourself in front of your agents. You've never taken the time to frame yourself in a different light, and that's why Jason and I thought that this meeting would be helpful, because the power of what you say, the intention behind the words that you use, create all the emotion that you need. You don't care any less than I do. I guarantee you guys care just as much about your loans as I do. The difference is that what I communicate and how I say things is what makes me different. That's what's made me successful, and that's what's made my business last for 20 plus years. That's my soapbox.
Awesome, Doug.
Very good. Very cool.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I get the message. I know. I want to be able to implement that. So no, that's exciting. I like that mindset. I like that belief system and structure.
Here's what then I'd like to do, guys. If it's okay with Jason, you guys can talk about it amongst yourselves. I'm going to send out the replay for today's class because I'm recording the call. But Jason, if it's okay with you, I don't mind doing this on a weekly basis, and we can actually start making this more of a formal, because I teach a 14-week training class on this stuff. I'd be more than happy to start a class with your team and start with the whole mindset and get into how we can start developing ways to implement this into our business and really working on it.
I think that would be huge. I'd love it.
Okay. So let me yeah, all right. Let me go ahead and rewrite. Let me go ahead and download the recording from today's class, send it out to you guys. And why don't we say next Thursday at you want to do 10 o'clock, Jason, or do you want to keep it at 9?
If you put it at 9, it's probably better for these guys.
Okay. So we'll do 9 o'clock. Next week's class is going to be more about kind of dissecting each of the things that I've talked about a little bit more in detail, and we'll start with the whole mindset, because I think you have to have the right mindset in place in order for these words to really mean anything. Otherwise, it's just going to sound like a script. So we'll start there next week.
Awesome.
Have a great week, guys. Enjoy your weekend with your family and friends. Be safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, buddy. See you guys.